6,000 years ago, on the windswept Bogotá Altiplano of today's Colombia, a band of hunter-gatherers lived, thrived, and then vanished so completely that no trace of them surfaced until fragments of bone, sifted from ancient soil, exposed a genetic lineage unlike any ever recorded in the Americas. Their DNA redraws the map of early human migration and opens a new chapter in the story of who first called this continent home. Curious to follow the mystery as it unfolds? Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. In 2024, an international team published genomes from 21 ancient skeletons recovered on the high plateau. One cluster, dated to roughly 6000 BAP, didn't match any known Native American or South American ancestry, establishing a brand new baseline for the continent's prehistory. Until now, scholars pictured a single wave of settlers branching out across South America. The discovery of this Colombia 6000 BP lineage proves multiple. Early offshoots reached the south, and that some disappeared entirely from the genetic record. At the height of the last glacial maximum, approximately 20,000 years ago, sea levels had dropped by more than 100 meters, exposing a vast steppe called Beringia that linked Siberia and Alaska. Picture rolling grasslands dotted with mammoth herds, bison, and woolly rhinos. A cold but green corridor that lured small bands of East Asian hunter-gatherers eastward. Genetic studies show that by approximately 16,000 BP, these pioneers had paused long enough in Beringia to develop a distinct ancestral signature before pushing into the Americas as the ice sheets began to fracture. When an ice-free corridor and coastal kelp highways finally opened, the Beringian descendants fanned south, bringing with them the genetic seeds of every modern indigenous group known until now. Some hugged the Pacific shore, others threaded inland river valleys, but all carried stone tool traditions, fire-making know-how, and stories that would shape two continents. For decades, Clovis spear, points dated to approximately 13,000 BP, served as the benchmark for first Americans. Recent discoveries have shattered that certainty. Butchered mastodon bones in Florida, 14,550 years before present, a cave in Mexico with tools older than 26,000 years before present, and, most strikingly, 23,000-year-old footprints at White Sands, New Mexico. These finds hint at multiple staggered migrations long before Clovis, creating the complex backdrop against which our newly revealed Bogotá lineage emerges. Once the pioneers crossed North America, every southbound path narrowed to a single strip of land no wider than a morning's walk, the Isthmus of Panama. Flanked by pounding surf and mosquito-laden swamps, this corridor forced migrating bands into close contact and competition for fresh water, game, and safe campsites. Those who made it through carried only what they could haul on their backs: stone blades, fire kits, infants, and memories of colder worlds behind them. South of the isthmus, the Andes rise like a spine, and halfway up their eastern flank lies the Bogotá Altiplano, a 2,600-meter plateau carpeted in wetlands, rich grass, and edible tubers. Cool days, chilly nights, and thin air filtered out the ill-prepared, but for adaptable hunter-gatherers, the plain offered trout-filled rivers, roaming deer, and wide horizons for seasonal movement. Here, 6 millennia ago, the enigmatic Cheka people put down fleeting roots. In 2024, archaeologists excavating rock shelters at Checua on the Bogotá Altiplano lifted 7 skull fragments and 14 teeth from packed clay floors. The team drilled into the dense petrous bone behind each ear, nature's own safe deposit box for ancient DNA, and sent the powder to a cleanroom lab in Copenhagen. From 21 individuals spanning 6,000 to 500 BP, they captured over 1.2 billion readable snippets of genetic code, enough to compare against every published ancient genome from Alaska to Patagonia. Back in silico, researchers ran a battery of tests. Outgroup F3 and F4 statistics gauged shared ancestry the way linguists measure shared roots between words. Admixture teased apart older and newer gene flows like layers in a trifle. QP-Wave probed whether two populations could spring from a single ancestral stream. Radiocarbon dates from charcoal flecks beneath each burial anchored the genetic timelines with plus or minus 30-year precision. What emerged was startling. 7 hunter-gatherers formed a lineage that sits outside every known Native American clade, neither sister to the Clovis-linked Anzac child of Montana, nor cousin to the Channel Islands seafarers who later dotted the Pacific coast. Dubbed Colombia 6000 BP, this basal branch likely split from the main southbound migration soon after it cleared Panama, then lingered in high Andean isolation while other groups mingled, farmed, and spread. In genetic terms, it's a time capsule, a preserved echo of one of the continent's very first forays into the southern hemisphere. At 2,600 meters, oxygen levels drop by nearly a quarter compared with sea level. The Checha people's rib cages were likely a shade broader, their blood richer in hemoglobin, natural tweaks that ease high-altitude living. A telling parallel comes from Otzi the Iceman, circa 3,300 BC, whose genome shows similar red blood cell advantages for life, above 2,000 meters, and from Neanderthal Denisovan DNA segments, e.g. EPAS1, that boost oxygen uptake in modern Tibetans. Hearthstones and charred camelid dung hint at fires kept blazing through frosty Andean nights, while turf windbreaks sheltered sleeping niches from cutting valley gusts. Faunal remains show a taste for white-tailed deer, rabbits, and the now extinct Andean horse, all stalked with barbed obsidian spear tips. Rivers yielded catfish the length of a forearm, trapped in woven reed weirs. Women dug up calabaza-sized mashua tubers and gathered wild Andean blueberries, flash-drying them on flat stones for lean months. The varied diet helped small bands roam light. No single resource could fail them. Because clay cracks on open hearths at this altitude, true ceramics wouldn't appear for another 4 millennia. Instead, Checa artisans napped chert bifaces as thin as a thumbnail, drilled bone beads, and plaited basketry tight enough to hold water when sealed with pine resin. Hides stretched over cane frames formed dome-like huts that could be dismantled and packed within hours, a smart design for groups shadowing migrating game. DNA revealed 4 sets of close kin, siblings or first cousins, among just 7 sequenced individuals, painting a picture of tight family foraging parties. 5 males shared the Y chromosome haplogroup Q1b1a, suggesting paternal continuity, while mitochondrial lines were a mosaic of B2, D1, and A2, evidence that women sometimes married in from neighboring bands. Runs of homozygosity were short, meaning they rarely paired with immediate relatives despite their small census size, estimated at fewer than 150 souls spread across the plateau at any one time. Around 2000 BP, the soundscape of the Altiplano changed. Stone on sinew gave way to the clack of spindle whorls and the thud of clay vessels settling beside hearths. Archaeologists label the newcomers the Herrera ceramic culture, people who planted quinoa, maize, and tubers in raised beds and fired orange-red pots, sturdy enough for stews and chicha beer, Their settlements grew larger, their refuse heaps thicker, and their diet broader, laced with cultivated amaranth and guinea pig bones, signs of a society that could stay put through lean seasons. Genome scans on individuals dated 2,800 to 1,200 BP, Herrera, and 1,200 to 500 BP, Muisca, show near-identical ancestry, implying a single, stable population that weathered 13 centuries intact. Yet, in those same burials, researchers found zero trace of the Checa signature. Admixture plots stack like layered cake, one recipe throughout, and QP wave tests confirm the later farmers descend from a Central American-leaning source, not the high Andean hunters they supplanted. Why did the Checa vanish? One culprit may be the mid-Holocene warm spike, approximately 6,000 years before present, that dried wetlands and thinned game herds, nudging fragile forager economies toward collapse. The farming Herrera, armed with pottery, surplus grain, and denser numbers, could simply outcompete small bands for river flats and obsidian quarries. Add the possibility of novel pathogens, harmless to farmers, lethal to isolated hunters, and the stage is set for a complete demographic turnover, a silent takeover written only in clay shards and mitochondrial helixes. The Checa genome shatters the single-wave narrative. Instead of one great migration cascading south, the data point to multiple early pulses, some splitting off near Panama, others hugging the Pacific, or slipping into the Amazon. Each wave carried only a slice of the Beringian gene pool, so when one branch vanished, like the Checa, an entire chapter of diversity disappeared with it. This pattern isn't unique. Ancient Beringians in Alaska and the Channel Islands mariners off California also represent early offshoots that later populations absorbed or erased. Together with the Bogotá find, they sketch a continent once peppered with small, genetically distinct enclaves, each testing a different ecological niche before history's winners rewrote the map. To uncover the fates of other hidden branches, archaeologists, geneticists, climatologists, and indigenous knowledge keepers must weave their data and their narratives together. Ancient DNA can sketch the family tree, but only excavations, ethnohistory, and climate models can add flesh, song, and setting. The Checa discovery is a starting point, not an epilogue. Let's follow their faint genetic footprints across the Andes and beyond, filling in the blank spaces of our shared past, before time erases the clues for good.